What is up, geeks and geekettes? It's another edition, finally, right, of the Countdown City Geekcast. My name is Ted, aka Steady, and look at this guy joining us once again. He's been on the show before. You've seen him take on events all over the country with us, and he's here now, the one and only Colin. How's it going, sir?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, man. And you are showing you're showing off your new podcast area, and you're in the upside down
I am in the upside down,
right
and
outside your window.
yes, in space, it's crazy. Yeah, I was gonna say it's been so crazy and insane this year, as you can attest to that. It's just been absolutely insane. I'm now part of something called the Virtual Cantina, the Virtual Cantina Network, and we're just busy. We're traveling. Next year is going to be absolutely insane. Probable ScumCon is going to be phenomenal. All the panels, all of the celebrities that will be there. Go and check that out. Tickets are on sale for that now. Um, and then we also have the classic Boon to Eve that will be occurring as well. More details will be dropping for that. But we also have the next one that's going to be in at Star Celebration in 2027. That those dates like of the actual like official announcements and stuff will be coming soon for that. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, absolutely insane. Can't wait for next year, especially for Countdown. You've got so many conventions, so many premieres, so many great people on the team. So yeah, very, very excited.
And because you were making all those announcements, you brought up something that I should be talking about on a daily basis. Hayden Christensen, the chosen one himself, is
SpaceCon,
making a return to San Antonio, baby.
yeah, let's go.
I was gonna show the graphic, but I don't have it right now, so I apologize. So Hayden Christensen is returning to SpaceCon San Antonio in 2026.
In June.
I'll look for that. And yes, the biggest thing to know about SpaceCon this year is that they've moved it up in in the year. So right now it takes place in June. And so I'm gonna get all that stuff for you guys right now. I got it.
Oh man, yeah. The crazy thing about next year is that we've got so many. So for me, you've got in like the spring, in March, you have C2E2.
Yep.
You have the next month after that of going into May is Motor City Comic Con, June Space Con, July, is of course San Diego Comic Con, and then you have a bunch of different conventions in between. You've got Chicago Fan Expo, you've got so many, and then you have Dragon Con in August. But yeah, it's definitely going to be insane. And not only that, it's just not conventions happening next year. You've got reunions. For example, next year is the 25th anniversary of the Fellowship of the Ring. 25 years of Lord of the Rings, and all the hobbits will be at a bunch of the fan expos, including Chicago Fan Expo. So if you love, just everything nerdiness in general, go and check that stuff out. It's going to be an absolutely insane year next year, and for films as well. So, but
I'm
yeah,
already
SpaceCon.
exhausted.
Yeah, yes, same here.
Oh, and then he takes off. There he is.
Oh, yes. So
Oh, weird.
yeah, SpaceCon is a fun one. I ironically the first SpaceCon I went to, Hayden was there, so it'll be super cool to go back to that environment. So yeah, super excited for that.
If you follow the channel, then you already know about SpaceCon. But if you haven't gone yet, then I don't think you're listening as
No.
well as you should. SpaceCon is arguably the best convention in the country. And I know people say, like, oh, what about San Diego, New York? Those are not conventions. Those are on a whole nother level.
Yeah.
But there's just a threshold, and those two are past that. But everything else is below that. And celebrities are easier to meet with, and they're more accessible. And so that's what we're talking about when I say it's the best con in the country. I mean, like out of all the other ones, excluding those top two promotional events. But Hayden Christensen's coming back, and he's coming back for all 3 days this time around. So for 2026, you have 3 days, three opportunities to meet Hayden Christensen, and which is great because I do remember the last time he was here, he did sell out of at least the autographs for sure, if
He
not
did.
autographs
Yeah.
and photos.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say, and the presence that he brought to that convention was just absolutely insane. There were a lot of people that were actually meeting him for the first time, and we had a couple of friends that were experiencing that, including you, Ted. That was your first time meeting him. Not only that, you hosted the largest panel there, and that was your first interaction, and you crushed it, man. You absolutely crushed it. But I mean, but not that. It was so cool to see so many people seeing him for the first time, and just kind of seeing that inner child come out again.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
yeah, so if you guys have the chance, go to SpaceCon. There's more than just Hayden that will be there. There will be Ted, help me out.
Um, Emily, is it Van Camp? Has already been announced.
Yeah.
They've already stated there's at least two more Star Wars guests, big names,
Hmm.
A-listers that they're about to announce. One of them's confirmed, one of them is still pending.
Okay.
So the promoters say there's a big three dream trio, is what they're calling it. Hayden's number one, and they said number two has been secured, and number three is pending.
There you go.
So we've already had Hayden, Rosario, and Ewan. If that's not the dream trio, you can't get much bigger than that. And you've already had Ian McDermott. You've
Yeah.
already had, all these other Star Wars guests. So you, if there's a dream trio they haven't completed yet, I'm not really sure how much bigger they can go, but I'm taking their word for it.
Yeah. I think one person because they came this year and I wasn't able to go, but if they do go again next year and Hayden's there, that's going to be really cool. Which was Nick Gillard, and
Mm.
he's such an icon. If you love all of the prequel lightsaber fights, it's because of him. So I really hope that he comes back. Because I heard nothing but awesome things about him being there. So here's hoping that he comes back next year. But yeah.
I think everybody's thinking actors or actresses. If you ask me who's like my top Star Wars guest I'd want there, other than Mark, it's George Lucas, and I don't know if he'd ever do something like this,
Yeah.
but holy cow, if you had the maker there himself,
I
uh,
know, dude.
just shut it down. Just
Or Harrison Ford. A personal hero of mine is Phil Tippett.
mm.
I don't know about SpaceCon. My dream is Rebel ScumCon, but who knows? But yeah.
Shelly's in the chat saying, "Gonna be my third year. Just got my 3-day VIP.
Nice.
Awesome. Hayden for all 3 days this time.
Let's go. That's awesome. Yeah.
Congrats to you. It's gonna be a blast. We'll say it now, even though we're months away from finalizing anything. We're gonna have hundreds of giveaways at our tables. The Star Wars Stuff podcast is gonna have a booth there again.
Yep.
Countdown City Geeks are gonna have the booth there again. General Kenobi's Bunker is gonna be at the booth again. So hundreds of giveaways, thousands of dollars worth of prizes that we're giving out. I don't even know how much we gave away at the last one, but it's really cool that it's in June because we don't have to wait that long for it. It's not a whole year away anymore. Uh,
Yeah.
it's been sped up, and so it's great. There's a lot of questions if there's going to be more than one event by this team next year, and I say let's wait and find out. They might only do SpaceCon, or if we're lucky, they'll have a second event later on in 2026, which I'm all for it. I will muster up the energy to pull off another one of these if I have to. It'll be great. SpaceCon takes place June 12th to the 14th in San Antonio, Texas, at the Freeman Coliseum Expo Halls. It's just a short drive east from downtown of San Antonio. It's roughly like 3 miles. So if you stay somewhere in the downtown area, it's a short Uber drive. There's nowhere to walk to the event. Let's just put it that way. But if you
Yeah.
have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. But be sure to follow SpaceCon San Antonio on social media, and we also have a fan group that you might want to join. So go check that out. But Hayden's going, and that's already worth the price of admission for me. And I know Colin's going to be there. We're all excited. The whole team is excited.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely insane. Love that con. So I can't wait. And just you know, bringing up again of just how crazy next year is going to be for our team in general. Because no joke, we have something going on like every single month starting like in March. So it's just going to be absolutely insane. But yeah.
Absolutely insane. All
No.
right. So before we get to our topic at hand, then we want as much of you out there to participate as possible. Have a couple of tease announcements. One of them, I'm going to go ahead and call out. But the first one is that I will announce an advanced screening that's coming up very soon. So I'll by the end of this stream, I'll announce which movie it is. It's clearly going to be something in December. I'll announce what it is, and I will give you as much information as I have right now. But still waiting on a few final details to get finalized. So yeah, advanced screening. Going to announce which movie it is before the end of this stream. Don't let me forget, Colin.
Oh
And
well.
then the second thing I wanted to announce is we just launched a Five Nights at Freddy's social media giveaway.
Oh,
This is an incredible print from comic book artist Gilbert Perez. Uh,
that.
we're we are giving out a handful of these to folks on social media. It's very simple to enter and it's absolutely free. So if you want to enter to win one of these gorgeous Five Nights at Freddy's prints, all you need to do is be a follower of ours on social media, tag the biggest FNAF friend you know on in the comments, and then we will announce a handful of winners over the weekend once the movie's already out and stuff. But we want to give people enough time to join, and they're really great prints. And also give Gilbert Perez a follow as well, who is one of the biggest FNAF fans out there. Also, did a quick review for FNAF. I posted that today. Sabrina also caught the film last night. She posted her written review on our website. You can check that out at countdowncitygeeks.com. And we have a ton of interviews we've released this week. And I still have two more I got to release. So it's been a busy time.
No,
And
yeah,
Thanksgiving
completely
didn't help.
understandable. Yep, yep. And speaking of Thanksgiving, the day right before they dropped 4 episodes of Stranger Things, which
They
just
sure
kept
did.
all of us busy. Oh,
They sure did. And I don't know how you saw it. Let's start there. I don't know how you saw it, but my son, his one of his friends is, well, our neighbor, and they have like a 75-inch flat screen with
okay.
like the best surround sound
Yeah.
that I can find in any residential house. And so we went to my neighbor's house to watch volume one of Stranger Things and had the best experience. It was almost cinematic how loud and how much bass was
Yep.
booming through the living room. It actually makes my living room feel kind of pathetic, but that's neither here nor there. Where did you watch it? How did you watch it? Was it right away, or like did you have
Uh,
to get stuff out of the way first?
we watched it at 7:59 on the dot. Just because it got to Netflix slightly early. Sometimes it happens. We just haven't kept refreshing it because my wife and I are huge fans of Stranger Things, and we watched all the episodes all the way through, like all the way through. I think we stayed up until almost like 1 p.m. I mean,
Yeah,
sorry, not 1 p.m.,
1
1
a.m. 1
a.m.
a.m.
But yeah, and it was phenomenal. And we have we have we have Gobi lights on our TV, and we actually have a good surround system. So when there's lights and so every time they're in the upside down and you see the red flashing, like on our TV that we have in the living room, those like red lights would end up going off, and it was so cool. and our surround system is pretty sick because I've done everything in my power to make it so immersive, like in our living room when we're watching stuff, so that we don't get distracted by anything. But that was a really really cool experience. And the other cool thing is that I've been watching the show. Um, oh yeah, okay, cool. I've been watching the show like since it came out, like
Yeah,
all the way back in 2016. So it's been a surreal experience, and also it's been so crazy to actually watch these kids grow up like with the rest of us. And uh, it's going to be really sad to see the show end, but I know there are talks of other spin-offs. They've already announced a animated show that actually takes place between season 2 and 3, and it will be animated. I don't think the original actors are coming back to voice them. They haven't confirmed yet, and the trailer didn't sound like their voices. But it's so cool that they're going to be adding to the story and stuff like that. But yeah, it's awesome, but it's also sad to see like the main story end. So it's going to be really interesting to see of of what happens in these next couple of weeks.
I gotcha. I gotcha.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm all for them expanding on this universe. It's we could probably get into that as well and theorize what could potentially come about that. But as for right now, if anybody was questioning whether or not this show still had either a fandom or still could generate a buzz, or if anybody would still turn out for it, look no further.
Yeah.
Record-setting, views in, I think, the first 5 days for any English-speaking series, and so I don't when they get that technical, I feel like they're doing it for reasons, but regardless, it's still a monumental achievement. It's like nearly 60 million, I think, views in like the
Yeah.
first 4 or 5 days of a show. So that is incredible. Netflix, I heard, had interruptions in certain areas. Luckily, that was not mine.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
same
that
here.
was not yours. But yeah, no, fans are still turning out. I understand there's a little bit of growing pains and frustration with how long it takes for these seasons to come out, but the product is still as good as ever. And so as
It,
long as they keep churning out high quality content, I think I'm never going to have an issue with it.
right. And that's the thing too, is that, as much as, we want, certain games and certain projects to come out on the date that they say that it's going to come out on. For example, you've got GTA 6, right?
I knew you were going to
They
say that.
well, I mean, they have just pushed it back and pushed it back and pushed it back, and it's because they want to do it right. They they want to deliver their promise that they have said. It was the same for Star Wars Jedi Survivor. When that game was announced, it was supposed to drop, no joke, the week after we got back from Star Wars Celebration in London. And then they were like, actually, we're pushing it, to the end of April. So no joke, it was on May 4th week. And that was such a busy week. And I'm like, I'm not gonna have time to play it because I got people coming up from out of town and stuff like that. And but I'm glad that they didn't rush the game. I'm glad there weren't any like major glitches or anything like that. And it's the same with the series. It took a while. Almost every season, except the first season, of course, took kind of a bit to get there. Actually, I think it was more after the second season, and it was just absolutely an insane anticipation. But when we finally got the new seasons, it was phenomenal. This, however, was because of the strike that was going on, so that definitely pushed things
Right.
back. And they actually, uh, I believe they did change some of the things that were written in the show during the strike. So like things were always changing, things were always moving. and that happens with big projects like this. And I was not disappointed with these 4 episodes. I mean, spoilers if we haven't established that yet. Spoilers, go and see season 5 of
Spoiler warning for sure, but you also have had a week, so we can't
right,
apologize too much for what you guys haven't
right.
seen yet.
Um, Not having Eddie yet is just killing me, and I'm really hoping that we get some type of Eddie flashback in on Christmas Day, which also again, all of these coming out on big holidays is kind of crazy. Because of you've also got the final episode, 2 hours and 5 minutes. Not only is it debuting on Netflix, but it's also gonna be debuting in theaters. Ted got his tickets. I was debating on it because we have a big group that is coming on New Year's Eve, and then we're
Mm,
waking up the next day, and most of us are Stranger Things fans, and I think we decided to just wake like not watch it on New Year's Eve just because it's just going to be absolutely insane here. Um, but on New Year's Day, first thing in the morning, we're all waking up. Um, you know, depending on the state of how people are feeling and stuff like that for New Year's. But we're just gonna just watch the entire thing all the way through, and it's this kind of feels like one of those big moments, like in um do you remember the feeling when, and if David was here, he would definitely be able to be like, oh yeah, when Return of the King came out, and
mm,
like of the way that ended, I got a feeling that they are going to nail the ending of this so well, and it's and this franchise is taking over the world. Like if you go to Target, if you go to the store, there's something related to Stranger Things.
yeah,
It's absolutely insane, like how much this small show from season one has jumped to a worldwide phenomenon. It's
yeah, yeah.
absolutely insane. And this season is no stranger to that. Like
Of them.
it's absolutely insane. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so these 4 episodes were great. They were a wild ride. And like glad that last episode is just like, all right, cool. What's next? Christmas Day. We have a couple of weeks and the anticipation is killing me. So but yeah.
You're right. I have got my tickets, and I'll quickly just
Yeah.
segue off to that real quick. If you are interested in getting tickets to the theatrical release of the Stranger Things series finale fan event, you most likely will have to physically go to the theater to buy your tickets. I could not buy mine on an app. I could not
Yep.
buy mine online. Um, I suppose it's not the worst thing. Maybe what they're trying to do is prevent resellers and scalpers from like price gouging tickets. Um,
Scalpers 100% be because the only way if you do it in person, they won't be like, all right, here's the email. You have the physical tickets, right? So
right.
you won't be able to do any of the scalping unless you're doing it in person. And then if you do it in person, it just looks weird. Being like,
I hear
hey,
you.
I've I've got this front row seat for like $500. It's like, no, dude, I can just go sit on like no. So did they limit you on how many
I didn't
tickets you could
ask.
buy? Oh, okay.
I didn't ask. I would assume there's some sort of limit, but tickets weren't crazy. I think they were around maybe $15 plus tax. But it also comes with a drink and a popcorn. So it's like, no,
Oh,
that's more than enough for the price of admission. And then, it's a 2-hour episode. You said 2 hour, 5 minutes. I
yeah,
actually had a 20-minute conversation with the guest services representative at
yeah.
the booth. We spoke for like 20 minutes about the show, and she said their computers show it closer to like 2.5 hours, which maybe they throw extra stuff in, extra
I can tell
trailers.
you why. I can tell you why that is because that's also including like the trailers
Yeah,
and the advertisements.
commercials,
Yes, yeah. So
all that stuff.
yeah.
So all that to say, you can try to buy tickets online. If it doesn't work, it's because you physically have to go to the theater you want to watch it at. and purchase it in person. So
They're also showing it on New Year's Day, on January 1st. It's just not New Year's Eve.
right, right.
So if you do love Stranger Things and you want to see this cinematic ending in a theater, this is your one and only chance because there's not going to be a season 6 as far as we know. Like, this is it. It's done after that.
This is
Like, so, yeah. So seize the moment, seize the opportunity. Go to your local theater, go online, see what's going on, do your research, and get your tickets before they're sold out. Some theaters are already sold out. So um, it just depends on where you are, but yeah,
yeah, that's what I'm hearing is that one second.
you're good.
Um yeah, what I'm hearing is there are some theaters that are already sold out and that I didn't think that would happen because you're right. There's at least one showing on New Year's Eve, and then there are at least 3 to 5 showings on New Year's Day.
Yeah.
And I believe they start as early as like 11 a.m. on New Year's Day. So I'm going to the very first one on New Year's Day, and your buddy David is actually
Oh,
going
okay.
with me. So that'll be fun.
Okay. Well, then
Um,
he needs to catch up because he told me he hasn't seen any of the new
he's
episodes.
he's got time. He's got time.
Okay.
Shelly Ritchie's in the chat saying Netflix took her 10 minutes to load season 5. I would have gone crazy for those entire 10 minutes.
No.
She also says, Eddie, that would be nice if we could get him. He was such a fantastic character. I have a theory about Eddie. I'm going to reveal my theory by the end of this episode.
So
And
do I.
says,
Yeah.
she says her tickets are secured for New Year's Eve in Houston. Shelly, I'm so excited for you. I think that's going to be
Nice.
fantastic. And it's at a good time too. If you're on the East Coast, it's a little bit earlier. If you're on the West Coast, you're kind of no. If you're on the West Coast, it's earlier. If you're on the East Coast, you
Yeah.
don't have a lot of time between like getting out of the theater and then going to like your New Year's festivities. So West Coast folks got it pretty good because I think they're able to get in and out easier. But yeah,
Yeah.
Shelly, I'm excited for you, Shelly. I wanted to try doing New Year's Eve, but it's just too tough, and I just like not gonna risk it. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna make sure that I'm gonna watch all of it. Probably be under the influence of some beer, so I might forget some stuff. And then when I rewatch it on New Year's Day, a lot of it's gonna feel new. That's my plan.
See, I'm going to avoid it completely, and I think I'm going to make a rule like for
And
everyone
no
because
social media.
we are throwing like a big we're throwing a big New Year's Eve party. Like here, you can't see it right now, but like this entire room is like a cantina. So when you step in here, it's like you're stepping into the world of Star Wars. So my rule is going to be you cannot mention Stranger Things. You can't talk about it because when we're having the party, it will have debuted. So and my wife and I aren't watching it. Our other friends aren't watching it on New Year's Day when we wake up. That's when we're gonna watch it. So, um, yeah, yeah,
There you
yeah.
go.
So, yeah,
Let's get into some of the details about these episodes and talk about the end of volume 1. Um, I will be honest, this took a little bit to get engaged with the story. There's so much exposition starting off in the first
yeah,
like 2 episodes, and it's probably necessary, right? Because last we saw Hawkins and all of these characters, the world nearly ended and the
yeah,
ground opened up, and so a lot of things have changed in the time since then. And so when we find the crew, and I'm going to call them kids even though they're older than my son, um they are doing things to circumvent the military, which is kind of on their side, but not really on their side, which I have questions about. I don't know why things are so confusing for the military. But the crew, the team, they are trying to find Vecna, who is gone AWOL. And so they have to carry out these really complex and almost spy like missions to just enter into the upside down and they have it set up as like in a grid where they can clear off certain areas and determine whether he's there or not. It's all over the top. I feel like I don't think it's filler, but they were trying to understand this new world that they're living in. We're trying to get caught up with how dire the situation is,
Yeah.
and they also needed an antagonist in volume one. Vecna's not around, so it can't be Vecna. So the military kind of fits the bill, and
Yes.
so that's why the military is not on our side. But again, I raise my hand saying I question that.
Well,
Monsters,
so
like
yeah.
everybody saw it. Everybody should be aware kind of what's happening, you would think, but it's still like they're trying to keep brushing things under the rug. And I'm like, by a certain point, you would just understand that things would be out in the open, but I guess not.
Yeah, the other thing too is that I think what the show does great is that it it really shows you certain sides of things like absolutely it takes place in the 80s. There are so many Easter eggs to some of our favorite franchises and all that stuff. But I think one thing that has made it very clear in the show is that a lot of people fear what they don't understand.
Mm,
And the military fear 11 because they don't understand her
yeah.
and they really can't control her. So they want to hunt her down. They want to do everything in their power um to get rid of that conflict. And they are so blinded by that they are not seeing what's really going on, and because of that it really bites them in the ass, in that final episode of volume 1. And I think the reason why things were so slow, like this season in particular, is because this next volume, right, of volume 2, it's just going to be go, 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 go. Everything's going to be absolutely insane. They wanted you to have that build up leading up to this last episode in volume 1, have it end with a huge, like, oh my God, let's go. Because now you have to recover for a couple of weeks, also anticipating how crazy it's going to be for volume 2. And I
Yeah.
think the Stranger Things team, the Duffer Brothers, absolutely crushed it with that. And I think when you know, I think when people create series like this, there's always a reason for why they're doing it. And some people say, there's these different filler episodes and stuff like that. But this in particular, this was done for a reason. It had to be slow because the ending of this had to be like, okay, now we're at the end. It's going downhill, not uphill, because this entire, like, these 4 episodes is just us kind of like trudging through the different plot points that are going to be very important later. And we got up to the top of the hill, and now we're just going to be rolling all the way down for the next couple of weeks after volume 2 and leading into the series finale. So there was a reason for it. I agree with you on the assessment of it, like of them kind of taking along with some certain plot points, but there was a reason, because the the anticipation leading up to everything in the last episode had to happen, or it wouldn't be as meaningful as it was.
I'll say, and I'll say that you're absolutely right. Total reason for it. There was a couple of times when I said to myself, man, I feel like this is dragging.
Yeah,
I am the optimistic person where, like, I'm sure it's going to lead to something, and I know it did.
yeah,
But I also know there's a good amount of people out there that are just gonna be checked out. Like, if you kinda drag, too long, then they check out, and they probably don't even
yeah,
finish the volume. So, I feel like that might have happened because you actually saw some negative comments on social media, and it's like, I don't think you finished all 4 episodes if you have only
Right.
negative things to say about volume 1. So,
Yeah.
for sure, it all led up to something. It's all necessary, and it was a lot. I will say it's a lot of it's a big info dump over the first 2 episodes. And we're figuring out Linda Hamilton is now the boss of the military, which she's a total
Terminator,
badass.
let's go.
She's an
Let's go.
icon. She's a
Yeah.
legend. She's still killing it. I mean, she's arguably
Well,
the best.
yeah, I mean, and I think something else that the show did is they brought so many, you know, different 80s pop culture to it. I
Mm,
mean, um they brought her, they brought Sean Astin in,
yep.
and it's just like there's so many different pop culture Easter eggs. And what's really cool is when you have certain TV shows that have like throwbacks to certain pop culture things, it's like, oh yeah, it's a callback. But what's really cool about this show is that the 80s was in a way kind of the birth of pop culture, if you think about it.
I
So the fact if you're seeing the fact that you're seeing these kids and like these characters actually experience what's happening in pop culture at the time is really really cool, and something that I think is super cool this season, but also I think is a big hint is and I don't think this is I'm not the only one that has had this theory. There I think there's been other people, but there's been a lot of Back to the Future references in this, more than you would think there would be. There were, of course they had Back to the Future and the third season, but the fact that they've just mentioned different things with time, like time sensitive things, time in general. You also saw the when they were in the car and they were trying to track the signal down. It goes to 88 like multiple times, and then the frame cuts. And I think that because there was the play Stranger Things, the first Shadow, I think, and if you don't know much about that play, go and check it out. It was on Broadway. I think it still is. And they talked that basically is kind of like a other origin story of why Henry is the way that he is. And I think maybe, and this is a theory going around, is that there might be actual time travel that happens in the show, and maybe that's what Henry's trying to do. The reason why that they keep bringing up Back to the Future and different time things, like for example Wrinkle in Time, like all that stuff, is because Henry essentially, and this is a theory, Henry wants to go back in time and change the events that happened in 1959 from that play. And I think that, we might go back in time. That is a huge possibility. And I don't think that the Duffer brothers would just keep mentioning different essential time travel things for, just for fun. I think they're doing it a lot this season for a particular reason. I think there will be time travel. That's just my assessment. But yeah.
That is blowing my mind. I have not at all, not once, considered that
Yeah.
a timeline could be affected by anyone in this show. I
Yeah.
don't know how I feel about that yet. Let me think about it, but
Well,
I'm all
well,
for it.
so
I'm all for it
yeah.
if it's possible, and if the Duffers figured out a way to explain it to where it's not too far-fetched for the audience, then yeah, I'm all in. I'm totally good with it.
Did you so of that scene of where you see Max going through the different memories, and we end up seeing it like of Henry's point of view of him in high school and stuff like that. That happens in the play 1959, like in that era of of the thing I'm talking about. So honestly, you know, I think that the overall mission is, Henry wants to change things in his own way. And there's going to be more from the trailers. There's like this kind of weird mystic thing that happens in the sky a lot, and I think it could be opening a portal to go back in time. And I know time travel's been in so much, but it's just like timing things and time travel has been mentioned so many times in these 4 episodes. Like it's absolutely insane. So
The only thing that matters is there time travel in Dungeons and Dragons? Because if there's not, then I feel like it's
you
gonna be
could re
really difficult.
you could rewind time. I
Oh,
think I think if you have like a spell or something like that, like of we're we're talking about, of different dimensional things, and then Dungeons and Dragons, there's magic, and I guarantee you that there is, spells where like you can rewind time in a certain aspect. And um and throughout the entire show, I think there's been just certain hints, like for example in the fourth season, Eddie's I remember Eddie looking at his watch a lot. When he fell in the water, there was all the whole watch scene, and also not only that, you have the clock, right?
yeah.
You got the clock. That is a huge thing in season 4, and then you've also got all these kids in this one that Vecna has captured. Do you know how many kids he's captured?
He's trying to capture 12, correct?
12, right. And
Right.
how many like
Numbers
numbers are on
on
the
the face
clock?
of the clock. 12.
Yeah, 12, right. So this is all essentially all part of time, and I think he's got this secret agenda that he's trying to open some type of portal, go back in time and change events from the past. Yeah.
Shelly says, much respect for Linda Hamilton, the icon Linda Hamilton. And
Yeah.
Shelly actually put a comment in here that was there on purpose. Holly is reading A Wrinkle
Yeah.
in Time.
Mm-hmm.
That's not by accident, folks.
I know.
It was obvious and blatant and right there. And I saw that when she was reading it, and I was just
Yeah.
like, okay, they had to do it for a reason. But
Yeah.
never would I assume they would do something that would alter time. I mean, I know you mentioned time travel, but it's probably going to be something different, but you get the same result,
Yeah.
is what
Can
I
I
think.
so and I mean, and this is also kind of a stretch, but in Fortnite right now, and yes,
Oh
I'm
god.
going there. I'm sorry, just
It's
hear me
cool,
out.
it's cool.
So they dropped all of the Stranger Things like skins on onto the store. And but not only did they do that, they also dropped a bunch of stuff for Back to the Future on there as well. And next week they are debuting Doc Brown and the DeLorean time machine as a car skin for in the game.
Wow.
And I don't think that's a coincidence either. I really think that like they are really making the fans think. I think that that they're doing certain things because it's all going to lead to this. And if we do get time travel, it's just like okay, it'll be very interesting because we've seen time travel done in so many different ways. So if if someone was going to make it different and unique compared to all the other times that we've seen time travel, I think it would be the team of Stranger Things. I think that we are going to have an ending and this big event um, in the final episode that's just going to be like, oh, okay. So yeah, I don't know. I've just got the sense that it's time travel. So
Shelly is hitting on it here. Science teacher is teaching wormholes and a bridge. Can't remember the
yes,
name of the
yep,
bridge, but no, you're not wrong. And I know we're jumping around here a lot. There was the shot of the painting that Will drew,
yep.
and it was supposed to be Vecna's new layer or whatever it is.
And he didn't want anyone to see it, and I think it's because it's a secret project. Well, like I'm talking about, he like needs so much energy, and I think that he's maybe taking these kids, plugging them in a sense because you saw the tubes like and all that stuff, right? So he's taking all the kids And basically, maybe he's, as soon as he captures all the kids, he's going to use that energy somehow to open up a wormhole into time, go back in time, and do the thing that I'm talking about, change things. And maybe Vecna's doing it in an evil way, but the results may be good, like if things turn out. But yeah,
So it's interesting because, yeah, so the thing that Will painted looked kind of similar to the teacher's wormhole design on the
yes,
chalkboard.
yep,
And so, it's too much evidence now that
yeah,
it doesn't have something not to do with time travel. It's got to be something that influences or affects past. But what would be the end game? Because if Vecna was to go back to, you said 59, and alter things, it could, in essence, depending on how you think time travel works, prevent his birth or his creation or what he is today. So yeah,
yeah.
it's got to be something specific. I don't know what it is.
So,
All the kids keep repeating that he's trying to take over the world. That just
right,
seems too almost obvious to be a real thing. Like,
yeah.
taking over the world doesn't really solve anything for Vecna. What does he
Well,
really need to do?
right, but think about it. Take over the world doesn't really make sense, right? Because he hasn't left Hawkins. The Upside Down is in Hawkins for a reason. And I think he wants to, use that area for Hawkins in particular because he needs to, travel back in time to, the event that happens in Hawkins. And in the play,
I
so
gotta
I
watch this
haven't
play.
seen it. Yeah, I've not seen it, but I wanted to do my research on it because I'm like, sounds like this is important. So I did my research on it, and in the play, the he makes a connection with the girl, he falls in love with her, and she ends up dying.
Mm.
And I
Ah,
think right. So I think that there's a chance that if he does travel back in time, maybe her dying maybe was like his origin, like his real villain origin moment. And I know that we saw him being a kid and then being like, yeah, like they like never understood me and like all that stuff. But it's just like I think this right here, this could be the moment that like really changed him and kind of formed him into the villain Vecna, and why we saw him at the hospital like killing everyone. It's because his soul, his like goodness went away as soon as she died. So I could see him going back and maybe wanting to, fix that. But not only that, you've also got the Mind Flayer, and the Mind Flayer and Vecna are two different people, as far as my understanding goes. Um, so there's also that as well. They have a lot to wrap up. Damn, dude.
and they got 4, 5 episodes, I guess, to do it
Yeah.
in.
Yes,
But
because we're
these are
getting
all going to
four
be
more
hour.
episodes. Yeah, on Christmas, and then the last one. Yeah, damn.
Yeah, and they're all at least an hour or very close to an hour.
Yeah,
So they have enough time to do it. Like you mentioned, there's no more time to like explain things. They've already covered
yeah,
that basis. All the stepping stones were taken care of in the first 2.5 episodes of volume 1. So really, it's all about action now. And we can I know we're jumping around a lot, but um Vecna, you mentioned Mind Flayer. I actually thought Vecna created the Mind Flayer.
Well, so I just rewatched the entire series again, and then the last four episodes. And in season four, of where he's kind of explaining like his origin of how he got to the Upside Down, the he says that he discovers something, and then the Mind Flayer is like right in front of him.
Interesting.
So right, so I think the Mind Flayer. and Vecna work together, but also in season 4, you also hear Dustin talking about how, if the Mind Flayer is the main villain, then Vecna is his 5-star general.
I hear
Um,
you.
right. So I'm just curious of if we'll ever get like a full reveal of the Mind Flayer and what's going on with that character as well, because that's always piqued my interest of what's going on with the Mind Flayer.
See, now
Ever
we're
since, yeah.
now we have too many potential outcomes now going into that rabbit hole, right? Because you either have to get Vecna out of the way to get to the Mind Flayer, or you have to turn Vecna. Dun dun dun. And I don't know if that's ever gonna be a possibility, but I don't want to theorize way too much too early on. Shelly says I haven't seen it either, and Doctor uses the same thing. Research the play, like your theory on it.
Thank you.
She also says I researched the play too. I like your theory.
Oh, thank you.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah,
It sort of feels like a Doctor Freeze type of story arc,
yeah,
you know, going back to save his Nora, and maybe Vecna's trying to do something similar with whoever this potential love interest that he lost
yeah.
way back when. So here we go. You opened up something that I was not privy to now, and so maybe we can tie it to something that we are privy to. Vecna has one weakness, one Achilles heel. He is deathly afraid of what looks like some sort of outdoor canyon or rock
Yeah.
structure. We don't know where this is. It doesn't look like it's in Indiana. So
So I think this actually there's a chance that this is actually tied to him being when he was younger, because when he was a Boy Scout, you
mm,
know, he would go and you know
camping, whatever.
right, right, right. So essentially, where Max is in Vecna's memories.
Right.
So he is in. So right now they're in a memory of Henry's, and the canyon is something part of his past. And this is something that I'm questioning about, and I think we need to talk about is why is he afraid of the canyon? What is in there that makes it where he can't go back? Is it maybe a certain memory in the canyon that maybe Max hasn't discovered yet? And that he's afraid to go in there because in that canyon could maybe be the last of the goodness of Henry, and he doesn't want to go in there because if he goes in there, he'll feel the guilt and of everything that maybe he's felt of the murder and everything. And I think he's afraid of going in there because he knows as soon as he steps in there, there's no going back, and that he's going to have a bunch of remorse and everything. That's
It
my theory.
it's got to be more direct.
Yeah,
It's not a bad theory, but like he's so terrified. He's like
yeah,
frozen solid when he just looks upon it, and we have not seen that face on him ever before. So if you say there's someone he might have lost in the past, maybe this is where she was lost.
yeah. Like he's afraid to like go back to that memory. Maybe in that canyon is the memory of where the person that he loved died.
Yep.
And if he just doesn't want to relive that because that is like the origin of his villain story. And like
Yeah.
it's just like how when Anakin became Vader, anyone that knew that like he was Anakin when he was Vader, he would kill them.
Yeah.
So like he doesn't want to go back and see that stuff. Like it's a it's a terrible memory. Um, but if if that's not the case, then maybe the canyon is tied to the wall that we see in the actual Upside Down. And
I'm
yeah,
still trying to, yeah, they haven't given us much about the wall. It is very odd, and it's also very weird timing to include a large structure
Yeah.
like that in the series. And so my first, just like the first time we see that there's a wall there, I'm like, oh, he put a wall up around his house, but nobody's ever mentioned it. So it can't be that answer, because they would have mentioned it by now. Like, we can't get to his house anymore.
So they actually, and the reason why this is so fresh in my memory, because no joke, like right before we started, recording this, I watched the final episode of Volume One, so it's like fresh in my brain. Um, they actually talked about that all of that it's all leading to the center of the circle, and at the center of the circle is Hawking's lab.
That's
Um,
right. That's right. They did talk about
right.
that.
So I think I think that like of where everything began is where it's gonna end for the most part. And
Right.
if you watch the trailers, um, there's a
No, I
bunch of
do
stuff
not.
that we haven't. Well, right, but like, it's the same thing I do for all the Star Wars content, which is like I like need to watch certain things so I can talk about it, and
Sure.
and then also I wanted to help it like kind of make my um to make the gears turn in my brain when I'm watching the season. And there are certain things in the trailers that are just like hinting at someone's gonna die, of course, but not.
Multiple.
I mean, be because it. Like, I mean, honestly, I'm gonna be real. I thought Lucas was gonna be the one that was gonna get killed because there was a shot of the trailer where it showed Vecna walking up, and then it cut to Lucas. So I was like, oh yeah, like he's if he's
Toast.
walking up to something like that, then yeah. But uh, I'm thinking everything is going to end at Hawkins' lab in a way, and I think that that's where the kids are being held. That's where quotations of my theory of the portal of that wormhole is going to be opened. Um, and if the time traveling happens, I swear it's going to be so interesting to see like um oh, man, actually thinking about it now, time travel would be really really interesting because let's say right before the wormhole opens, right? You
Yeah.
see, you know, Steve Harrington dies in the eighth episode, and then
Theories.
everyone's
Theories.
sad. Right. Like everyone's sad and like all that stuff, and then at the end of that episode Henry enters the wormhole. 11 follows him, goes back in time, right? She has the perfect opportunity to, like, change certain things. And then when we do go back to reality, you've got freaking Steve still alive, like, because, like, um, you, you, you have so many other characters that are, like, still there. Um, I don't know. No.
Stand by. Stand by.
Oh, cool. Shoot.
It
Um,
might clear up. We're probably uncovering too many details, and Netflix is trying to shut us down.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so basically and again, this is just like no joke, this entire episode that me and Ted have been doing, I've just been thinking out loud the entire time. But uh I'm thinking if they do the whole time travel thing that this will actually be like this will be similar to Back to the Future of where Marty, goes back in time and then he, goes back to the future and then his present is, slightly different, but it's better. And I could see 11 maybe sacrificing herself where like time has changed for her a lot, where like, you've got, none of the upside down stuff happens, which means we did not lose Bob, we didn't lose Eddie, we, didn't have any main characters die or anything like that. There was no really bad things that happened in Hawkins because stuff in the upside down never happened because stuff was changed in the past. And I think that happened. And I think giving the character ending would be really, really cool. But yeah.
That's an interesting thought because
Yeah.
I, like you, think that there has to be a sacrifice. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean death, but it does mean a sacrifice. And
Yeah.
so my two leading candidates are probably obvious, 11 or Will. Now, I don't know the reasons why it would have to be one of them, but
Yeah.
I would say there might be a scenario where you have to have someone stick around in the upside down in order to control things or to complete some sort of closure.
I think it's going to be Will, and it's because he's directly connected to the hive mind.
Mm.
And I think that, you know, because,
Oh,
oh.
oh no.
So because
Netflix is listening right now.
because Will and Vecna are actually directly connected, right?
Right.
So Will, and I think they made it really important to the audience that us as an audience knows how connected Will and Vecna are. I think that if Vecna does die, um, that will have to leave Will to like
Right.
be an important vessel or stay alive in some way, because if Will dies, then maybe because the other kids are part of the hive mind now, like Will, maybe they would die as well, because you like, saw them of the military, like, using the flamethrowers, and like every single time that a demogorgon is like, being hurt in some way, Will gets hurt. And
Ooh, yeah.
I think because Will is directly connected, I think you're right. I think will either have to stay in the upside down, or just, like he'll have to look after it in some capacity. I think there's got to be some type of sacrifice. I don't know about 11. I could see 11, just wanting a normal life this entire like show, and then her sacrificing herself to save her friends, is I don't want anything to happen to Steve Harrington, because if something happens to Steve, then something's going to happen to Dustin. Look at what happened to Dustin when Eddie died. He could barely, like, he's barely hanging on. Like, this season's, like, so far for their relationship has sucked for me, because they are, like, I love their friendship so much. So seeing them kind of drift apart in volume one has just been kind of sad, because like, I I loved their relationship and friendship that bonded in season two, and I've loved it, like, how it kept going through all the other seasons. But when Eddie died, I think Dustin's not really feeling like he's been heard, and I think that's why he's staying distant from not just Steve but all of his friends. And um I think if Steve dies, then I don't know what's going to happen to Dustin. I just don't know. I think that kid has already gone through so much heartbreak, and I don't want to see anything else. So just leave Dustin and Steve alone, please. Just don't do anything. Um, but yeah. So
You know what's interesting is I mentioned that I had like a 20-minute conversation with that clerk over at the theater about
yeah,
Stranger Things,
yeah.
and she said the same thing, the exact same thing. I don't want anything to happen to Steve because Dustin won't be able to handle it. It
No.
is so fascinating that the fans are like picking up on the downfall of that friendship and
Yeah.
kind of like where they are now. And it is fascinating that the Duffer Brothers made it so apparent to the fans that that relationship is in such turmoil, that it's so broken. And so
Yeah.
yeah, what is the thing that comes from it, and how do they mitigate it? My response to her was, I don't think anything happens to Steve, because I think the casualty in all this is going to be Jonathan. It could be misdirect.
Yeah. Yeah.
It could be misdirect, but Jonathan is holding what looks to be an engagement ring.
It 100% is. Because in the first episode, you have Murray where he's like, and for you, Jonathan, I know you don't like jazz, but you'll find this engaging. And he does like a huge wink. So it's like, oh, okay. So, and then like in the second or third episode, you end up seeing the engagement ring. But
Yeah.
I think you're right on that. I think that because I mean, and what they've been doing so well in this volume one is like they've done different things for these characters that make you think, oh, well, this person has a lot going on and a lot of dreams. That means they're probably going to die. But wait, they're doing it for that character. They're doing it for that character. So, it's making you really think who will end up not making it. There in one of the trailers, there is a scene that has Dustin and Steve, hugging each other in a very sad way. And I'm thinking and I'm hoping that's not true, but it could be like Steve like knowing that he needs to make a sacrifice. And I think that it has to do something with the giant tower
Mm.
from that first episode of where Jonathan and Steve are going. And I think that with that happening, I think that was kind of like a foreshadowing of like that tower will come and play later, because in the trailer, the mind flayer it looks like it's taking over it, and maybe it could be a thing where maybe that's where Vecna's trying to open up a wormhole, and then in order for them to stop it, they have to climb up to the tower and turn off the switch, and then maybe Steve is like saying, "Hey, I'm doing it," and then while he's giving Dustin the hug, then Jonathan makes that call, and then he climbs up the ladder or something like that. Like, I don't know, man. There's like so many different things that can happen. Ugh.
Yeah, 50% of the time when somebody shows the audience that they're going to make an engagement
Yeah.
proclamation to someone, they don't survive the rest of the episode or the show. And then
Yeah.
the other 50% of the time, it's misdirection, and it's actually somebody else's plan to propose to somebody else. So I'm leaning towards it's Jonathan's engagement ring that he'll propose to Nancy with, or hopefully he'll
Yeah.
get a chance to later. But I have heard some fans say that it's actually Hopper's ring, and that he's gonna pop the question. Uh,
Oh.
and so
Well.
I had not considered that before. So if it is
Okay.
misdirection, it's a damn good one, because I didn't see that one coming.
Right. Well, I mean, if that's the case, I'm just like, I wonder why. I wonder why Murray
He
would
can't give
give
it
it.
to Hopper because Hopper is always occupied
Okay. Okay.
somewhere else.
Hmm. Uh.
Shelley says Dustin can't lose Steve. Exactly. He has become so much like an older brother, and losing Eddie was almost like that.
It was
Yeah.
too much for him. Um. Dustin is just not himself like right now, and he's been not just pushing away Steve, but he's in a way kind of pushing away all of his friends, because after he got beat up, he lied to them, saying that, oh, like I was riding my bike and went to a light post. Like he didn't tell him the truth. And I think Dustin's not really like, I think he feels that he's the only one that's really mourning Eddie.
Mm,
And I think that he feels alone more than ever because of it.
sure.
Um, and I just think that he doesn't want to burden his friends with it, because he doesn't want to feel like a burden to anyone. Because if you actually see him in the first episode of where they're at high school and then Dustin sits down, he's kind of acting like Eddie in some ways, and I think that
Sure is.
and I think that with everything going on with him, and he loses Steve, I just I just think going forward, I think Dustin will be broken forever. I don't think he would be able to recover from that just because a year from that it was Eddie, and then a year later your other huge brotherly role model, you know, um, uh, dies. Like it's too much. But I think something that that we're not talking about, which I haven't heard anyone talk about this in a while, is they never brought Eddie's body back from the upside down. They actually left his body in the upside down because when they were on their way back through the rift in in Eddie's trailer, they didn't have enough time to grab his body, and his body was never recovered. So I could see Eddie coming back in some way. I could see him maybe brought back to life by Vecna to maybe like taunt um all of the group in some capacity, and maybe that would be like a real freaky thing for Dustin. But yeah, I think we're gonna get Eddie back in some capacity by the end of the show. I'm just saying because
Well,
he's such a fan favorite, man. It's absolutely insane of how big of a fan favorite he's become off of that one season.
I don't want to ruin this for anybody. I don't know anything for certain, so this is only a
Yeah,
theory. Don't be
yeah,
mad at me if this is exactly how it happened. But it was a few years ago. I think Joseph Quinn's at a convention somewhere in Europe, I think, and somebody asked him. I don't know why people ask people this outright, but I guess it's for moments like this. Somebody asked Joseph, says, "Will we see Eddie in the final season?" And Joseph has first a look of like just perplexity, like he's almost confused by it. And then he kind of scans half the room and fans start cheering in the audience at this convention. They're at a
yeah,
panel, by the way. So all these fans are cheering. So then he starts smirking and then he responds like this. He says, "I do know," when this person asks, "Do you know if Eddie's going to come back in the final season?" So he
yeah,
responds with, "I do know, and I'm not going to tell you."
yeah,
So it is interesting, and it makes me at that moment when I saw that clip, it made me think, "Oh, there is gonna be some way that we're going to see Eddie." And, I know you can hear me. Let me get my camera plugged in again.
yeah. Yeah. No, he's such a great character. So, um, and he became a huge fan favorite, like huge fan favorite, like overnight. So it would be weird not to end the show without having him come back in some capacity. And I think that there is going to be a lot of callbacks. I mean, if time travel does end up happening, um, there will be a lot of callbacks, from the entire show. So um, it's just a matter of time. But yeah,
I'll finish my rant because Netflix is clearly trying to sabotage our stream. Okay, so fast forward to how does Eddie come back? I did not have an idea of how that was gonna work until we saw episode 4 of season 5. So, Vecna shows up. Duffers actually said that they were inspired by Darth Vader's, scene at the end of Rogue One.
yes,
I believe is what they mentioned. So there's your Star Wars reference, Colin. Keep
yep.
doing it. Star Wars, inspires everyone.
Well,
And
well,
so
well. I will say this, which no one ever talked about. I don't think because I just rewatched the entire show, but the scene where the military in the fourth season actually infiltrates the bunker, that is very reminiscent to A New Hope
mm,
of when the stormtroopers actually go onto Tantive 4 and they storm the hallway there because all of the soldiers in the lab were all lined up like the rebels were, and then the other soldiers that broke through the door came in through like stormtroopers, and then the main general dude like had an entrance like Darth Vader, and I was like,
Gotcha.
oh, okay. So it's cool that these guys are big Star Wars fans. So yeah, it's cool.
Fans of everything.
Yeah.
All right, so here's my only Eddie theory. Um, is that in episode 4, volume 1, Vecna shows up and wrecks shop. I mean, these Demogorgons, which if you were trying to figure out a way how to make them more terrifying or menacing, you let them be able to like sprint around the town at like 40 miles an hour. That's horrifying. Just allowing them to get up to those speeds. So they take care of the military. They take care of them in quick fashion, right? But right after, I think when Vecna shows up, there's an amount of Demogorgons that have either subsided or they have perished. And so when Vecna walks in, one of the first things he does is he gestures his hands in a way that almost makes it look like he's resurrecting them.
Yeah.
That any of the Demogorgons that might have fallen early on to the military or whoever, he actually resurrects them. Now,
Okay.
everybody knows this is not a spoiler. Stranger Things have spoiled this on their own channel, by the way. Will um, steps into his destiny, and he is now a sorcerer. He basically has similar abilities to 11, but
Yeah.
also it is said earlier that from Mike that he could potentially have all the same abilities as Vecna.
Right.
So if Vecna can resurrect people with his abilities, Will can resurrect people the same way. Will they be
Hmm.
exactly who they were before? I'm not claiming that because I think
Yeah.
that's a little far fetched for me. However, I do feel that if there was a certain situation, a scenario that required additional individuals to assist in whatever they're trying to accomplish, then yeah, you raise the dead or of some form of them, either in the upside down, and Will would be the one to do it, and that's the best way I think we'll get Eddie back.
Okay. Hmm. So there's there's also the theory that uh and I don't know how to fully explain it just because like I have played Dungeons and Dragons. I have played D&D, but there was a theory about Eddie um being, brought to Vecna after the kids left because of he there's this character that actually serves Vecna in D&D that is like that's labeled as like the Vampire King, I believe is the name of it. And in a way, Vecna brought him back to life because he was bitten by like so many vampire like bats or something like that. So like I think he could come back in some capacity, maybe. Um, but as like a way to torment the group. And
Mm.
I think that would be a real twist on bringing Eddie back. But then maybe Eddie like comes back to his senses and be like, "No, I'm the good guy," and then he, like I could see something like that happening. Um, but yeah, but with Will having the same abilities as 11, I think that 11 and Henry and like all of the other um, kids that have powers that were in Hawkins' lab, I think they all had the same blood, and I think that and the reason why that they all had the same blood was because there's certain things that happened in the play and that I was reading about um where where Vecna disappeared for 12 hours. Uh, and then he was brought back. Papa ended up using his experiments and stuff like that, and used Henry's DNA to help create some of the kids. So, for example, like Eleven's mom, they like did something with her that experimented with Henry's blood, and then when she had 11, that's why he took her, because he knew exactly what kids and stuff would have that DNA and blood, and he knew because the blood that was in her, um, she was going to have some type of special power. And I think maybe Vecna killed all of them because of he didn't want anyone else to be like him.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah. But yeah. So, I think more. I think Will is more like Vecna than this having the same powers as 11, just
Yep.
because of the way that he did kill the Demogorgons was very
I
similar to how
agree.
Vecna kills. So, um, and again, he he is now part of the hive mind. So I don't know what that means exactly. I don't know if they kill Vecna, does that mean that Will would die? Like, what does that mean exactly? So, yeah,
You're raising the right questions. You're asking the right question because these are the rules. Not only did they set up years ago, but they're still showing us today.
yeah,
I already forgotten that if you kind of hurt a Demogorgon, that Will feels that same pain. I'm
yeah,
like, we're still there. I thought there might have been a time where like
no,
they unplugged that or removed that sensation from him, but no, it's always going to be there. So whatever fate you set up for Vecna or the Upside Down is the same fate of Will's, and nobody's mentioned that yet, but I know that's going to be one of the things that gets brought up. How do you defeat your enemy when your closest friend is tied to their fate?
yes,
That's the conundrum that this sets in. So it probably now leans more to Will having to not defeat the enemy, but self-sacrifice himself, give up his human life in order
yeah,
to prevent anything bad from happening further and sort of either control or rule or whatever you want to call it the upside down from that point forward and just take Vecna's place as opposed
yeah,
to destroying him completely.
yeah.
Um, I don't have any more theories. That was kind of the biggest one. And we've talked about who we think might die and all that stuff and all that. And we've talked about time travel. It still blows my mind that that's where we went with this show.
Well, I mean,
It's
it's
great.
just
It's great.
there's been so many time travel references, like of when Robin talks about the flux capacitor. I'm like, oh, okay. But then I started to see that for some scenes when they are tracking Hopper and the Demogorgon and the Upside Down, you see like the tracker number go up and always goes to like 88, and then
Mm,
there's Wrinkle of Time, and I'm just like they're they're mentioning time travel for a
so much.
reason, and then they talk about wormholes, and you're just like, okay, it's not a coincidence. And not only that, um when they actually talk about of oh shoot, I'm forgetting the teacher's name, and he's such a cool character. um when he's talking about wormholes, he is talking about time and how maybe in this reality things are a lot different than they're in the reality that they're in. And he
Yeah.
says something in the lines of that, and you're just like, he's mentioning that for a reason. They are mentioning that stuff for a reason, and I think it's going to play a larger part in the second half of the show. So,
Mr. Clark is who you're thinking of.
Clark, yes, thank you. Yeah.
And Shelly's in the chat saying, unless they can ET him. I like
Are
where your
you?
head's at, Shelly. I like where your head's at.
Does that mean like sending him away?
Um, yeah, potentially, but also, I guess that's what it means,
Yeah.
potentially. Or remove that sort of that bond that they have, if that's possible. All I know is this is some of the best television. They are arguably in the running for one of the greatest shows ever, and if you don't feel that way, that's okay that you have that opinion, but having so many views in the first week, having your series finale staggered the way this is because of reasons, no one has no one's bold enough to have their series finale take place on three of the biggest holidays of the year. No other show in history will ever attempt this ever again. That just shows you how bold this creative team is, and how much they believe in their product and believe in their show. I fully feel that they're going to stick this landing and they're going to land this plane and they're going to blow everybody away with how they decide to end the series, and I'm excited for it. I know you are as well. And I'm going to talk to you folks at home right now. If you guys have any theories on what you think may or may not happen going forward with either Volume 2 or with the series finale, drop them in the comments. These are only theories here. Nobody's leaking any information. Nobody's talked to the Duffer Brothers directly or anybody attached to the show. This is all just for us to come together as fans and talk about what we think potentially is going to happen with the show. So drop your thoughts in the comments. All right.
Yeah,
Any
I think
final any final thoughts, Colin, on what's next?
I'm I think this will, I think the show will come full circle, and I think it's going to have that Return of the King feeling. Like I really think it's just going to end in a very nice kind of graceful way. And if it does end, like I have seen this theory in a while, and I just think it would be so funny if, like, at the end the characters are seeing something weird, and they're like, "Oh yeah, did you see this?" And then one person's like, "Yeah, I've seen Stranger Things," and then
Ah,
dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. But yeah,
but
yeah,
um,
yeah, but yeah. So no,
awesome.
I am very very excited and sad at the same time, because it's so funny that most of these seasons have been kind of like apart like for releases. But during those years of waiting for it, the anticipation was always there. So it's just like, I know it's being made, I know it's gonna come out. I don't know when, but I'm excited. So it's kind of gonna be sad not to have that feeling anymore.
It
Um,
really is. But then, like
yeah,
you mentioned, there are side projects and spin-offs that we're
yeah,
probably going to get going forward.
yeah,
And honestly, I'm just excited to see what the Duffer Brothers do after this. Give them a
yeah.
Star Wars project. Who's
Do
gonna
it.
throw the most money at them next? Can you imagine them, doing something with, Skeleton Crew? Is it
Yeah, I
is it too on the nose to give them Skeleton Crew? I'll give them Knights of the Old Republic. Give the Duffer Brothers Knights of the
yeah.
Old Republic. They've earned it. They can do a billion things with it.
So a other big Stranger Things and Star Wars connection is that Sean Levy actually had a huge part in the making of Stranger Things,
Yep,
and he's got Star Wars Starfighter coming out in 2027. And he recently was in a interview where he stated that this is not gonna, do anything with the sequels or the prequels. It's gonna be its own individual Star Wars project that
yep.
will have like its own theme to it, but similar themes to and hints at past Star Wars projects. But at the end of the day, it's gonna be its own thing. And um him taking on a project like this, especially with Star Wars, excites me because his films are really damn good. So I'm really excited to see of what happens, and the fact that he actually, has directed, a couple of things in Stranger Things makes me really happy and excited, because I love Stranger Things and I love Star Wars, and him going into that world is going to be super interesting.
Yeah, Sean's just batting 1,000 right now. Like everything he
Yeah,
touches turns to platinum. Not even gold. It turns to platinum.
yeah,
And so anything he's attached to, I'm all for it. Shelly says Duffer Star Wars project would be fabulous. So she's in agreement.
Yes, it
All
would.
right. Once again, let us know your guys' thoughts about either Volume 1 or what we can expect for Volume 2 or the finale. Have you gotten your tickets yet to the theatrical release of the finale? Do not hesitate. You must physically go to the theater of your choosing and buy your tickets. And if you're lucky, it'll also include a free popcorn and a free drink with your admission price. The last thing I'll do before we get out of here is I did tease that we are going to
Yes.
be co-hosting a advanced screening of a upcoming movie, and some folks have already talked to me about it in person. Um, it's taking place Saturday, December 13th, at 11 a.m. at the Santikos Palladium Theater. It is the advanced screening of the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, Search for SquarePants.
Are you ready, kids?
So I mentioned that we're still waiting on some details to get finalized. So I cannot give out tickets or passes tonight. What I will say is that we will be opening up the contest for the passes very soon. So I'd say in the next couple of days, we might get the green light to go ahead and release tickets for the advanced screening. If you've never been, they're always free. But if you do win passes, you must show up early because these are always first come, first serve. Seating is limited. So show up early, especially if it's a popular film. You're going to want to try and guarantee your spot by showing up extra early. What can you do in order to win these passes? You must follow us. What I will do is I will announce usually the time and which platform we're going to release the tickets. It's usually always on Facebook. Um, and I will set a time in the afternoon or early evening. That way, we give everybody a chance to actually see the announcement and get online when the tickets drop, and give everybody a fair shot at getting them. So, number one, follow us on social media. Number two, turn your notifications on. Click that notifications bell so that when I make those announcements and I let everybody know, you'll be the first to know. We also have a Facebook channel, not a page, but an actual channel that you can be a part of, and I always let those folks know. So if you want, you can also join our Countdown City Geeks channel on Facebook, and I always let those folks know in advance what time and when to expect the release of the advanced screening tickets. All right, and we hope to see you guys there. The SpongeBob movie Search for SquarePants releasing in theaters on Christmas Day, but you're going to see it on the 13th. A whole like week, like 9 days before. It's
Yes,
pretty
sir. Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
All right, folks, that'll do it for the Countdown City Geeks. Love having another long live stream. Shout out to the folks in the chat, especially Shelly, who was having a conversation with us. She's very excited. She's already got her tickets as well.
There you go.
Also, Colin's got a brand new show that he's doing. Colin, where can folks find you?
We are the Life at Lightspeed podcast. You can find new episodes every Friday, and then on YouTube and all live streaming platforms. And then we drop all those episodes either the next day or on Monday.
There you go. Be sure to follow Colin and be sure to check out the interviews that we're dropping this week. Uh, had one that I did yesterday that I'm working on, and also interviewed actor and comedian Al Madrigal this morning,
Yeah, I saw
and
that.
he's hilarious. He is a riot, and he's doing a cameo in an upcoming comedy show. So if you want to know what it is, tune in tomorrow when I drop that interview with the great Al Madrigal. All right, folks, have a great night. Be sure to get your tickets to SpaceCon. Looks like Shelly's already got hers. And we will see you guys next time. Peace.